Shalom. Kol halal Yahweh Bashem Habashai Bahashem Rakakadash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops, salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so, now more so than ever. To the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth among the heathen that look like the heathen, and to the Akwaf that are listening and learning, to you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm with a message to the elect and only the elect. Our time of redemption is near. This is let's go to Thessalonians. Is it First Thessalonians or second? I'm gonna know in a second. Nope, the Second Thessalonians. This is Second Thessalonians 2:8, and it reads, "And then shall the wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming." And the spirit of his mouth is the mouth of the prophets in these videos, these e-epistles, these online epistles. All right, so let's get the sound up, make sure it's right. And without any further ado, let's let the Shedemite speak. And they're looking on the screen at WASP. There is no such thing as white people. There is no such thing as white Anglo-Saxon people. They made it up. It's all a lie, and the evidence is out there. I just very angrily watched another version of the Vikings, Valhalla Risings or something like that. And how they can get the clothing right, the weapons right, they can get the jewelry right, the way of life, the false pagan gods that they worship, but they can't get the ethnicity of the actual Vikings right, when all the relics of the time period show you who was the ruling class people. So I'm going to tell you this, and she's going to back it up. Whiteness was made up during the colonial time. She's going to mention it, and that happened to be in 1681 when it was actually written into law. Okay, so you so-called white people who are going to watch and scoff at this video, you're not white. You are not the Vikings. You are not you were not the sons of Ragnar. You were not Ethelred. Okay, you are not the Brits. You are not the Scots. You are not the Irish. You're not even real Europeans. You got forced into the Caucasus Mountains, all right, after the fall of Rome. All right, and you came out of the Caucasus Mountains, and then you got dominion. That was prophecy that you would get dominion. All right, you fulfilled Job 9:24. And with the Renaissance, you begin to whitewash and change history into your favor. Change the meaning of words, change scripture and the Bible, all to fit your false narrative and your newfound created whiteness and your new created white superiority.
Is based in racism. It was a narrative created.
Let's take it back. There we go.
White culture, if you could even call it culture, is based in racism. It was a narrative created by colonizers, like my Portuguese ancestors, in order to justify what they were doing to other people on the continent of Africa and even here in North America. And the narrative was that we white people were better than all other races. And they did so through Christianity. They took the Bible and different scripture verses, twisted it around in order to fit the narrative of.
And that's the same version of Christianity, which is taught to all your ordained pastors and people who go get, like Vocab Malone and T.D. Jakes. What she's talking about, this is the version that they're taught.
Colonialism and white supremacy, and also the patriarchy. And the patriarchy is white man in power. White supremacy is white man in power. Colonialism is white man in power. And Christianity, for the most part nowadays, is white man in power. There are historical references and proof where the Catholic Church actually said to enslave an African was to save their soul. The kidnapped and enslaved Africans that were here in North America were preached different scripture verses than were actually in the Bible. And that's why they weren't allowed to read. Because if they could read, then they could see that these scripture verses were incorrect and they couldn't be controlled anymore by this white God.
Yep, reading was a crime punishable by beating. Reading the Bible was a crime punishable by death during the time of slavery. And what she said is the reason why.
And white people, we didn't identify as white until colonialism.
In 1681 in Virginia, they created laws because what was happening is that women like her, when they were coming to the Americas, which was actually established by crypto Jews, Morenos and Moors, those were Negroes, all right, until the Edomite man came and took it over. That's a hard pill for some of you to swallow, but you do your research. Took me a while to come to that conclusion too. The 13 colonies were set up by some of our own people. Some of our own people owned slaves and plantations right here in the 13 colonies in America. All right. That's how you got people like Jonathan Northup who ended up getting captured and sold into slavery, because that's what began to happen to many of them. Esau turned on them. All right. Never trust thine enemy. All right. And those Moors and those crypto Jews who came to America became what was referred to as Huguenots, were some of the biggest race traders that the world has ever seen. All right. They were. All right. But that whole lie about Africans were selling Africans, you just got to throw that in there. Off the west coast of Africa, that was a lie. Africans were selling Israelites. All right. That's what was going on. Africans, a different dark race, was selling Israelites.
We identified as Portuguese or Latvian or German or Italian or French. But then colonialism came around, and then all of a sudden we became white and we were superior because we were the chosen race by God.
And the reason they became white, they made a new class because, like I said, the women that were coming to the colonies from Europe, the so-called white women that were identified as German or Portuguese or Spanish or French, they were marrying the indigenous men of the Americas and marrying the Negroes. All right. And so, and this angered a lot of the white men. So they did these laws called miscegenation laws, which came about in 1684 in Virginia, or 1664. All right. And then they really didn't started enforcing them later on in 1681 after this term of whiteness was created. And it became and so white women that would marry these Negro native or sometimes even Chinese men, because some of them were there as well. All right, they would or Moabites to be correct. They would inherit their slavery status, or their indentured servant. The children would be servants until they were 21 years old or something to that nature. And then these Negro men, these native men, were not allowed to own firearms, to buy land, to have bank accounts, and then most importantly, they were not allowed to bring a white male into court for any reason whatsoever, which allowed the white males to do to them whatever they wanted to. So women out of fear began to be with white men, but when they had the choice, they were not. Kind of like now when you look at professional sports, the majority of the white women that are with these athletes are, when you look at Jake, majority of them have white wives and girlfriends. All right, because when Jake has power and influence, then women flock to them over the so-called white male. And that's just fact. You can see that with your own eyes in most cases. So let's let it continue.
And the scripture verses proved it. And we had to go into other people's lands and preach the gospel when really it was all a ruse. It was all an excuse to go in and rape and pillage the land and the people and the cultures.
Yep.
So when I say that white culture is based in racism, It's based in racism.
That's right.
Christianity was the Trojan horse of white supremacy and colonialism. And Western Christianity, as we know today, is still based within superiority.
Yep.
All Christians think
because they whitewashed all the images. Because, like I said, when you go and look at all the images of the Bible prior to the 1400s, prior to the Renaissance, all the images are dark with Negro features and afros. All right, different shades of brown. And then all of a sudden, during the Renaissance, all the images became, even the pagan gods became white. Okay? Because I have books and images of Zeus and Hercules and Odin. They were all dark. You know, they even had a video came out showing you the actual first Swede or person, you know, in Denmark. And the dude was dark. They gave him blue eyes, but he had brown skin and woolly hair. So, which that can actually happen, because I saw someone who was very, very dark complected, and he actually had blue eyes. Okay, and everyone was staring at him because it just, you know, it's just something you don't see all the time.
They're better than everybody else. I grew up in it. I'm very familiar with the culture. And it's part of the problem. There's a reason why most of Trump supporters are Christians.
Democrats too.
It's because they don't even realize that the conditioning of colonialism and Christianity and
the thing is when it comes to Republicans and Democrats, it's simply that the Republicans are still trying to hold on to the white superiority of Christianity in order to stay in power, and the Democrats are trying to eliminate Christianity because it's in the way of their agendas, which actually go outside the Bible. So they're just more open with it. All right, but you got to remember, both the left and the right side of the, you know, the Republican versus Democrat, they're two wings on the same hateful bird. They're not for you Israelites. Just remember that.
The patriarchy is so deeply embedded within them and their identity that they don't even see the truth. Christianity is based in superiority, in white superiority, in white culture, which is all based in racism.
And lies. They made it up. All right? It was completely made up. All right? So, yeah, TikTok be going hard sometime, man. So, but this is Job 27:15. It says, "Those that remained of him shall be buried in death, and his widow shall not weep." So these Edomite women more and more are coming against the patriarchy of their men. All right, they're coming against it, and also women are naturally attracted to power, and it just seems to me through observation that the Edomite woman can see that power change coming faster than the so-called Negro Latina woman, because you know you still got out women of the tribes that cleave on to Esau Edom, and Esau Edom is falling literally right before their faces, but they're blinded by all the gifts that they've been given. But the Edomite woman, who didn't really need their gifts for the most part, all right, because you know the elevation of women elevated them the first and the highest. They, you know, they can see what's happening. They can see that change happening in the world, and women gravitate toward power, and then a lot of them are physically attracted to you know, the Negro and darker flesh men, whether they've acted upon it or not, or whether they admit it or not. Okay, so that's just where we are. And like I said, and in prophecy, you have to look at where we are. We're in Ezekiel 37:38, and what comes after Ezekiel 37:38 is let's read two of them. Actually, a couple of them. Let me get Lamentation 4:21, and it reads, "Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwelleth in the land of Uz. The cup shall pass through unto thee, and thou shalt be drunken, and thou shalt make thyself naked. The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will also visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins." So the embarrassment and the shame of being exposed to being a wicked and have lied and being brought down terrifies the so-called white man, the self-proclaimed white man. Okay? and the fact that the cup of slavery is going to be passed unto him. They fear that, and you have to understand, we're in Ezekiel 37, 38, right? 37, Ezekiel 37 is the awakening of the lost sheep of Israel, the awakening of the elect, more importantly, all right? Because there's a lot of Israelites that have woken up to the fact that they're Israel, but they're not part of the elect, okay? And then what came after that? What comes after that now is Ezekiel 38, which is the war that ends all wars, the third woe. That's what's happening. Okay, so let's and what comes after that is these right here. This is Revelation. Well, you know what? I'm in Isaiah, so let me just stay there. Well, I'm close to Isaiah. Let me go there. Isaiah 14 and 2. All right. This is Isaiah 14:2, and it reads, "And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land for servants and for handmaids, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors." So this oppressive white culture, this self-proclaimed white culture, is going to become the servants, and that's the next place in prophecy. You know, I mean, you know, the MOTB has to be instituted before that happens, but nevertheless, in succession, this is what happens next, and this is what they fear. And we'll close it with Revelation 13 and 10. And it reads, "He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword." But that also, this is a great scripture that shows you that killing is not unlawful. Murdering is. Because when you're killing someone, you're taking their life according to the law, according to something that they've done. There is a difference between killing and murdering. All right. Murdering is when someone is dying at the hands of a person for no apparent reason or for malice. Killing is when you're being paid back for a sin, for transgressing the law or transgressing against the person. Revenge. So this is revenge of the Lord. This is the Lord's vengeance coming back for doing what they've done. Once again, Revelation 13 and 10. "He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killed with the sword," and Esau's blessing was the sword, meaning he was going to rape, rob, and murder, use his sword to get the world, and he did. Now it's time for his payment. Time for him to pay for all his treachery, dealing treacherously with people. All right. And then it reads, "Here is the patience and the faith of the saints." So the saints, which are the Israelites, are faithfully and patiently waiting to institute slavery among the nation of Edom and all the heathen that committed atrocities against them. Call halal Yahweh Bashem Abishai Bashem Wakakwadash Wa Abba Babal Kwam Yasharala Shalom.